This is the annual joint memorial service presented by the Toledo Bar Association, the Toledo Women's Bar Association, the Thurgood Marshall Law Association, and the Lucas County Bar Association. This is our opportunity to remember those lawyers and judges we have lost since our last annual service. This service proceeds as a court proceeding, as we have usually conducted it in the largest courtroom in the Lucas County Common Pleas Court, with a judge presiding and many members of the bench and bar present, along with family members of the deceased. Last year and this year have been conducted virtually, but we expect to return to our usual format next year. As is our tradition, Chris Beach, Bill Meyer, and I shall be reading you the memorial statements prepared by committees of lawyers who were colleagues or family members of the deceased. These statements are all different, owing to the uniqueness of each person we are remembering, and also the different styles employed by the members of each committee. We have gently edited the statements, so any errors or omissions are solely the fault of we presenters. Although this is a secular ceremony, each year we have asked a leading figure in one of our local faith communities to offer an invocation. This year, the Reverend Robert Reinhardt will offer the invocation. Father Bob is a retired but still active priest for the Diocese of Toledo and also remains very active in the community. Father?
Lord, we praise you, we bless you, we thank you, especially for the men and women we remember today, who in their practice of the law served you and your people. Perhaps many of these lawyers touched our lives. If in so doing, they have offended us, we forgive them. If we have offended them, we ask their forgiveness. But as I think of one in particular, they have all been a blessing to us and to their clients, those who came before them when they were judges, and the entire community they served. It is because of them and people like them, we have a society that, while fractious at times, is doing the hard work of democracy, and we are free and by and large, a caring and welcoming society. And so as we remember them with gratitude and recommend them to you, who entrusted them and us with the task of being good stewards of life, may our memory of them and their dedication to you and to the law encourage us to be ever more dedicated to you, the source and fulfillment of all law. Lord, bless us and keep us. May your face shine upon us and be gracious to us. May your peace be with us. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Now we shall call the roll of our newly departed members. Robert C. Treat, Jr., October 5th, 1957, July 6th, 2021. Admitted to the bar, January 24th, 2015. Bob Treat served our country in the U.S. Army after graduating high school from 1976 to 1979. Following his honorable discharge, he earned his BS degree in public law and government from Eastern Michigan University. Later, he received his JD in 2002 from the University of Toledo College of Law. Bob married Joyce Lubke in 1991. During law school, Bob worked as a clerk for Mantes, Miller, and Shea from 2000 through 2002. He was hired by Hans Consulting, QDRO Express, in 2002 and served as president of the company from 2007 through 2012. In 2012, he bought the company and was sole member and president from 2012 onward. Known for his pro bono work in family law and his extensive knowledge of all things QDRO, Bob received the 2007 Family Law Assistance Project Pro Bono Attorney of the Year Award, as well as the 2017 State Bar of Michigan John W. Kaminsky Pro Bono Award. He was active in the Michigan Bar Association, where he was past chair of the Family Law Section and of the QDRO Committee. He was widely published on the subjects of retirement plans, QDROs, and employment benefits. Bob is survived by his beloved wife, Joyce, his mother, Constance Treat, his sisters, Lauren Treat and Penelope Treat, his caring sister-in-law, Kathleen Geisler, his many cousins, aunts, nieces, nephews, and goddaughters, Ashley Zimmerman and Erica Mauder. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. Ronald Roy Henderson, June 1st, 1943, July 28th, 2021. Admitted to the bar, November 3rd, 1973. Ron Henderson was born and raised in Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee. He met his wife Phyllis in 1965 while attending the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Law school brought Ron to Ohio after serving 5 years as a naval officer. He received his law degree in 1973 from the Ohio State University. The family then moved to Toledo so that Ron could begin his legal career at the Toledo Legal Aid Society. The family never left. After his stint at Legal Aid, Ron conducted a general practice in Toledo until retiring in 2017. Growing up, his son David remembers his father providing him and his younger brother the guidance to excel in school. They always sought his assistance with tough assignments because he was so good with writing and analysis. It probably pained Ron that his two boys eventually chose to attend the University of Michigan and West Point Military Academy. Of course, the two biggest rivals of Ohio State and Navy. Later in life, he and Phyllis traveled the world. This delight was a perk of having a wife who was a Delta flight attendant following her career in nursing. Ron was a jokester at heart. He proclaimed April Fool's Day to be his favorite holiday and loved to play practical jokes on his unsuspecting children. His son David remembers Ron getting him on the phone one April Fool's Day to talk to a famous ball player, only to later find out it was a friend of his dad playing the role. Many years later, when his other son got married in the Hamptons, the family went to the local courthouse the day before the wedding so that the marriage could be official. The family will always fondly recall the look of horror on the face of the bride when she saw Ron arrive at the courthouse in his Jack Daniels pajama lounge pants. Apparently, he assumed there was no reason for him to dress up until the actual wedding the next day. After his sons have children of their own, they knew Ron as Papa, who liked to tell jokes and riddles. They liked this so much that after Ron's passing in the summer of 2021, his grandson Chase's first action was to purchase some of the same joke books he had previously read with his grandfather. After his retirement, Ron liked to stay active through karate. He also enjoyed reading, following the crazy world of national politics, and watching sports, usually while drinking a martini and smoking a good cigar. He also attempted to become internet savvy, which routinely led to his computer breaking down and Phyllis having to clean up the mess. Ron Henderson will be greatly missed by his family and colleagues, but his sons feel very fortunate for the guidance he provided them throughout his personal and professional life. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. The Honorable William G. Kroncke, July 15th, 1934, August 14th, 2021. Admitted to the bar, May 6th, 1964. Bill was born to Gerald and Vivian George Kroncke in Daytona Beach, Florida. After graduating from high school, Bill received his bachelor's degree from the University of Toledo and then his law degree from the University of Toledo College of Law. He'd been a claims manager for an insurance company downtown and started his law practice at Topper, Jaffe, and Jacobs. He later was a founding partner in Connop, Kroncke, and Darkangelo, which in time became Kroncke, Darkangelo, Fury, and Mills. Bill was also an acting judge in Maumee for 4 years and an acting Sylvania municipal judge for 41 years, only retiring in November 2019. This made him the longest serving judge in Ohio. Bill was in the Army from 1954 to 1956. He specialized in Morse code and was also a sharpshooter. He had a special group of friends called the Sams. They were lifelong friends and shared many adventures. His very first boat from his father was called Sam after his group. Bill loved the water and was an accomplished boater. The sea lawyer took his family on many grand trips that are remembered very fondly. At the age of 49, Bill got his pilot's license and began flying. He started doing angel flights in 2001. In 2012, he was given the Outstanding Senior Volunteer Award for his service. He continued flying until October 2019. He was also a member of the British Car Club and the proud owner of a 1967 Austin Healey. His very last award for 2021 was first in class at Perrysburg British Car Show. Mr. Kroncke learned of his illness in 2019 and retired as an acting judge in Sylvania Municipal Court. Sylvania made January 6, 2020, Judge William Kroncke Day in recognition of his being the longest serving acting judge in the state, with 4 years on the bench in Maumee and 41 years in Sylvania, according to Mayor Craig Stow's proclamation. Surviving are his wife, the former Janet Curtis, whom he married in 1981, daughters Kathy Slawick, Beth Holzimer, and Mary Kroncke, son Jeff Kroncke, 7 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace.
Douglas K. Jordan, April 27th, 1938, September 12th, 2021. Admitted to the bar November 2nd, 1967. Doug was a 1956 graduate of DeVilbiss High School. Upon graduation, he entered in the Army Reserves. He was a BA graduate of the University of Toledo and received his JD from the university's College of Law. Vocationally, his was a general practice, personal injury, general litigation, family and juvenile law, and bankruptcy for over 50 years. Avocationally, Doug was an avid and accomplished sailor. He lived next to Lake Erie, but not on a houseboat, as some sometimes wondered. His dedication to his favorite pastime included longstanding membership in the North Cape Yacht Club, serving a term as its Commodore. As the weather turned toward winter and time came to haul in the boat and stow the sails, Doug, for many, many seasons, spent several fall Saturday afternoons in the big house in Ann Arbor, letting the Wolverines know that he was behind them all the way, no matter where they were headed. Avocationally, he was also active in the local theater community. His acting having begun in high school and continued into college and culminated in appearances with the Village Players. Somewhat surprisingly, for a man of his robust build, Doug was a competitive badminton player who also enjoyed less strenuously croquet. For 50 years, Doug was a member of the Free and Accepted Masons of Ohio and an active member in several local civic organizations. On raising the anchor and setting sail on his last outbound journey, Doug leaves behind a large and loving family of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, former stepchildren, and a sister. Doug was someone who enjoyed what life offered and took the time to find pleasure in what he enjoyed. Maybe someday the same can be said of us. Respectfully submitted to the committee. May he rest in peace. Justice Andrew Douglas, July 5th, 1932, September 23rd, 2021. Admitted to the bar May 13th, 1960. Justice Andrew Andy Douglas passed away peacefully at his home in Dublin, Ohio, with his beloved and devoted wife Sue at his side following a pulmonary illness. Across Ohio, he was known as Justice Douglas. In Toledo, he was Andy. He never forgot his Toledo roots. He was proud to say he was from Toledo and a graduate of the University of Toledo College of Law. Andy began his law career in Toledo in the law office of Eugene Winchester and soon became a partner. In 1961, he was elected to the Toledo City Council, becoming the youngest person to ever be elected. He was elected 10 consecutive times, served for 19 years, and became known as the Dean of Toledo City Council. In 1980, he was elected to the 6th District Court of Appeals. He served there until his election to the Supreme Court of Ohio in 1984. He was reelected to the Supreme Court in 1990 and 1996. After serving for 18 years, he reached the mandatory retirement age of 70 and retired from his service to the state of Ohio. Andy resumed his law career and actively practiced until the time of his death. Andy found his true calling in the law. He never lost his enthusiasm for the law and considered it an honor to be part of the legal profession for so many years. He relished the calls from friends and adversaries who were seeking guidance about a particular issue, case, or rule. His memory for cases, statute, and rules and their applications was encyclopedic. One of his greatest joys and delights was engaging with and debating other lawyers, judges, staff attorneys, and interns. There are countless stories about Andy and his red pen. He often told others that being on the Ohio Supreme Court was an intellectual feast every single day. He typically carried a small copy of the Constitution in his shirt pocket, and when a constitutional discussion began, he would pull it out, find the pertinent section, and then offer it to his conversation partner as a gift. When he got home, he'd replace it in his pocket and looked forward to the next opportunity to talk with somebody about this founding document. And even though he was propelled to the highest court in his state, he never forgot his roots or his friends back home. For example, several years ago, many attorneys adopted the local habit of casually, though improperly, removing case files from municipal court, which led to the infamous Filegate scandal. Andy's loyalty helped convince his colleagues that the errant attorneys shouldn't lose their livelihoods. Though his post-judicial practice of law was centered in Columbus, his guidance and advice was frequently called upon back home in Toledo. His counsel was sought by successive city administrations, political candidates, and longtime friends and clients. He knew how to work every room he entered and had a knack for seeing through the apparent to what really lay beneath, what the conflicting interests were, and whose egos were at odds. He was the consummate insider and fixer, but rather than profit personally off his talents, he used them to help others. Then again, he was not afraid to remind his benefactors of his help if they were tempted to stray wayward. Although he resided near Columbus, he and Sue were extremely generous to local Toledo causes and charities, including the Salvation Army. Andy's commitment to working men and women was not just a political charade. Andy is the reason public employees have collective bargaining rights in Ohio, as he was instrumental in getting the Public Employees Collective Bargaining Act passed by the Ohio legislature. Many Toledoans will recall the dark days of the public employee strikes in 1979 and their aftermath. The act would finally allow public employee unions to organize and bargain collectively. A few short weeks before he passed away, Andy was asked in an interview how he would like to be remembered. Rather than answer directly, he read an email he had received from Toledo attorney Fritz Byers. Fritz and Andy were longtime friends and had recently vigorously sparred in a case involving the city of Toledo and the Lucas County Commissioners. Fritz's email in part read, The acuity of your mind and the force of your legal arguments, both as a justice and as an advocate, are qualities to admire and to my limited ability to do so, to emulate. Your overwhelming contributions to Ohio law are almost impossible to comprehend, however hard I try. Those in a position to know even a part of what you accomplished owe you lasting thanks. All Andy wanted to do was help others in their time of need. Each day of his life, Andy strived to earn the words found in Matthew 25, verse 21. Well done, good and faithful servant. Andy is survived by his devoted wife, Sue, also surviving our 4 children, Cynthia, Robert, Chip, and David, as well as 8 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. Theodore Bailey, Ted Riley, September 22nd, 1962, September 29th, 2021. Admitted to the bar May 16th, 1988. Ted came to Toledo by way of Springfield, Ohio, and after graduating from The Ohio State University with his undergraduate degree. He attended law school at the University of Toledo and remained in Toledo ever since. Throughout his legal career, Ted wore many hats. After graduating from law school, Ted worked as a staff attorney for the Lucas County Common Pleas Court. Subsequently, Ted worked for the then law firm of Manahan, Pietrkowski, Bamman, and Delaney, where he was primarily involved in civil defense work. Afterwards, Ted shared office space with Dombey and Hart in Perrysburg, Ohio, where he did plaintiff and criminal defense work. While at Dombey and Hart, Ted became the prosecutor for Waterville. For those of us fortunate enough to practice in Northwest Ohio, we know the relationship between the bench and bar is unique. While we all strongly advocate for our clients, there is a mutual respect among all. Ted was the epitome of the Northwest Ohio attorney. In his various legal positions, Ted dealt with all of his colleagues and clients with respect and dignity. Ted was well known and well liked by all. While Ted realized the importance of his work as an attorney, what was most important to Ted was family and friends. While living in Toledo, Ted met his wife, Jackie. The couple were married on April 23rd, 1993. Ted and Jackie were blessed with a daughter, Jessie. Ted would always speak of his daughter's accomplishments. After graduating from Miami of Ohio, Jessie moved to Columbus to work at Ohio State. Ted loved visiting with his daughter and attending football games with her at her alma mater. The family also enjoyed trips to Foley Beach, South Carolina, and spending time at the various state parks throughout Ohio. If not spending time with family, Ted enjoyed spending time with friends, whether at a local watering hole, attending a concert, or watching a sporting event. Ted enjoyed telling stories. On numerous occasions, Ted went up north to Michigan on the late great Judge Bowman's annual golf trip. For security purposes, many of the stories from those trips cannot be told. Suffice to say, good times were had among friends and colleagues. Ted is survived by his wife, Jackie, and his daughter, Jessie. His memory will live on in the minds of all his friends and family. Respectfully submitted to the committee. May he rest in peace.
George R. Royer, June 18th, 1936, October 17th, 2021. Admitted to the bar, October 19th, 1966. George R. Royer was born on June 18th, 1936 in Williamsport, Pennsylvania to Lucille and George Royer. He attended William and Mary on a track scholarship and was a member of Phi Kappa Tau. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in physics in 1958. George went on to get a master's in management engineering in 1959. And after receiving his master's, he joined the service and graduated from Navy Officer School at Newport, Rhode Island, and served from 1959 to 1962. After George served in the military, he moved to Toledo to study law and received a Juris Doctor in 1966 from the University of Toledo. He furthered his education and received a graduate degree of legal letters from Case Western Reserve University. George was involved in politics in the 1970s, serving as a trustee for Sylvania Township and as a board member for TARDA. George ran as a Republican candidate for the following positions: Lucas County Prosecuting Attorney, United States Congress, and State Senator. In his free time, George had a single-engine pilot's license and enjoyed flying the local skies. He was also an avid runner and participated frequently in local road races, oftentimes winning his age group. George continued running races well into his 80s. George was extremely health conscious and advocated healthy living. He loved the gym and was known for his competitive edge. George loved to challenge individuals half his age to lifting competitions and always won. Although George had a law office on Michigan Street in downtown Toledo, he was a true Lincoln lawyer. Every night he would leave the office and load up his Lincoln Continental with about 8 files and continue to work at home. George is survived by his daughter Heather and son Eric. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. Sharon A. Fitzgerald, August 23rd, 1944, October 20th, 2021. Admitted to the bar, May 7th, 1984. Sharon was born to parents Dorothy and Ferdinand in Toledo, Ohio. She grew up in the Old West End with her parents and younger brother Ned. She attended Rosary Cathedral Elementary School before attending St. Ursula Academy and Marymount's College, both on full scholarships. Upon graduating from college with degrees in biology and chemistry, Sharon worked as a chemist for Park Davis Pharmaceuticals before moving to the Medical College of Ohio's Anatomy and Physiology Department. She later graduated from the University of Toledo College of Law and spent the next 45 years working in child and family law. Sharon developed and cherished lasting friendships, including with her friends from high school and former coworkers. She also treasured nature, reading, learning, and her 15-year service as liturgist at the Community of the Risen Christ Catholic Church. Sharon is fondly remembered by those she leaves behind, including her sister-in-law Linda, niece Elizabeth, and her friends. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May she rest in peace. Richard Walton Edwards Jr., June 2nd, 1935, October 24th, 2021. Richard Edwards Jr. was born in Columbus, Ohio to Jessamel and Richard Edwards. He attended Upper Arlington High School, where he played trombone in the high school band. A favorite hobby of his was tinkering with and driving at high speed in an old Graham car. After graduation, Rich matriculated to Cornell University, where he graduated with an AB in philosophy, followed by a JD. While at Cornell, Rich met and married Alice Witzman. Rich was a conscientious objector to war, serving alternative service in Baltimore, Maryland. Both he and Alice served as house parents for other pacifists from the Church of Brethren, who repaired rundown row houses and helped in the local neighborhood center. Rich served as assistant director to the American Society of International Law in Washington, D.C. There, he became known for his work with the society and on his journal, founded to allow readers a view of the legal documents generated by the United Nations and other entities. In 1970, Rich was hired to the UT Law faculty, where he enjoyed teaching and engaging with the students in conversations on a wide range of topics. Professor Edwards' scholarship was widely recognized and rewarded. Locally, Professor Edwards won the Research Award at the University of Toledo and served on the Faculty Senate in the mid-1980s. As members of the Monroe Street Methodist Church, he and his wife set up a foundation to support the work of the church's neighborhood center, started as an outreach ministry of the church. He was a former vice chairman of the Neighborhood Center Board and regularly called the executive director for a status report. Pastor Elizabeth Rand stated that he and Alice chose the church because of the neighborhood center. It was important for them to go to a church involved with the neighborhood. Rich was forward-thinking and wanted to be involved to the end. During the pandemic, he regularly spoke with Professor Rand to see how everyone was faring. Professor Edwards was most closely associated with the College of Law, respected by his colleagues and students. Professor Jim Klein recalled, "He was a giant. What a kind man. He had intellectual ability. He was an academic, a huge scholar in international law. He was modest and generous to people. He was everything you'd want in a law professor." Despite Edwards' retirement in 1990, he continued to teach a course each fall until 2006, and then remained a regular participant in the Faculty Roundtable series. Professor Edwards also had a longstanding interest in the Crow Nation, studying their culture, art, and religions. For years, he and his family spent summers in his mother's native Montana, where he enjoyed eating cutthroat trout. Both he and Alice liked nature and enjoyed looking at the mountains. He was an information seeker, constantly saying, "I want to see something." He subscribed to 3 newspapers and regularly watched PBS News. Professor Edwards and his wife were longtime Ottawa Hills residents before moving to the Woodland Sunset House several years ago. Left to cherish his memory are his wife Alice, daughter Evelyn, son Ken, brother Rosser, and 2 grandchildren. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace.
Timothy Arthur Dugan, November 17th, 1981, November 2nd, 2021. Admitted to the bar November 5th, 2007. Tim, known online as OPTL Lawyer or Dugan in real life, was a compassionate friend, a loving son, and a great man. Dugan was a longtime resident of Lucas County, graduating from Clay High School and the University of Toledo College of Law. He was a prolific appellate attorney that had the opportunity to argue twice in front of the Supreme Court of Ohio. Tim worked for Groth and Associates before serving as a staff attorney for the Honorable Judge Stacey L. Cook. He loved the law and was known to sport bow ties while teaching continuing legal education courses. Tim would not hesitate to answer a call for help with legal research or procedure from anyone. Tim made time to host poker and board games nightly and weekly, serve at Cedar Creek Church, volunteer for the Toledo, Ohio Greater Area Toga Ultimate Frisbee League, stream online content, write cartoon fan fiction, and experiment with cooking. He was also involved in fundraising and advocacy for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, and sharing his personal story in hopes it would help others, all with his much-loved cat, Tina, by his side. His hospitality and friendship reached beyond racial, gender, age, or social status boundaries. He loved others deeply. When asked what he wanted to do with his assets, his only response was that he wanted to make sure his friends were cared for and knew they were loved. On November 3rd, 2021, Tim lost his battle with cancer. There were thousands of online comments, well wishes, memories shared, and prayers given on Tim's behalf. He was preceded in death by his mother, Becky Dugan, and is survived by his father, an equally nice man, former Oregon prosecutor Tom Dugan, his birth mother, Christine Farmer, his half-brother James Farmer, and his beloved cat Tina. Tim was 39 years old. He will be forever missed. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. The Honorable Francis X. Gorman, more popularly known as Mickey, September 22nd, 1940, November 9th, 2021, admitted to the bar October 27th, 1967. We do him a disservice to resort to cliche, quote, one of a kind, unquote, quote, broke the mold, unquote, etc. But to simply say that Gorman was unique is a woeful understatement. Those who knew him only from his years on the bench might be surprised to know of his career as a labor and civil rights lawyer, a fierce advocate from the longshoremen's docks to the migrant workers' fields. Before that, an accomplished student and athlete at St. Francis and later at the University of Toledo, including the presidency of the student body. Even so, Mickey never took himself seriously. He did, however, take his life seriously, and he didn't squander a minute of it. A military historian, Irish raconteur, complete with a brogue, expert sailor, ask Dick Wilinski about this, and proud and loving husband and father. how he loved being Irish and how he loved being a lawyer. The story of his trips to Ireland were among his best. The stories told by him were famous, equaled only by the stories told about him. And they were, of course, will remain an enduring part of Toledo legal law. As much as he loved the practice, he found the bench to be a perfect fit, and it was. No one could direct traffic at the crossroads of the law and the foibles of human nature better than Mickey. He judged with compassion and humor, but when the situation was grave, he responded in kind. He loved to talk about his experiences on the bench, but only if the joke was on him, never at somebody else's expense. Those who knew him as a judge knew of a great fortune to have practiced in front of him. Those of us who knew him outside of the profession knew how lucky we were to be his friend. Respectfully submitted to the committee. May he rest in peace. John Allen Galbraith, August 23rd, 1923, December 21st, 2021. Admitted to the bar, August 24th, 1949. John was born to Nina Allen and Dr. Evan G. Galbraith in Toledo, Ohio. He grew up in the Old West End and later Ottawa Hills. He was a member of the new Ottawa Hills High School first graduating class in 1941. After 2 undergraduate years at the Ohio State University, he enrolled in the Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps program at the University of Michigan. He then served as a lieutenant commander on escort ships in the North Atlantic and South Pacific during World War II. Following the war, he pursued a law degree at the University of Michigan. John initially worked in the legal department at Autolite in Cincinnati, but he was called back to the Navy, where he served out the Korean War at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. John moved back to the Toledo area, where he worked first as an executive manager for Community Sanitation, Inc., and by the early 1960s, he partnered with Jerry Sawicki on a long career in residential construction. In 1966, he was elected to the Ohio House, where he served for 22 years as a representative. He debuted legislation favoring gun control to limit crime and liberalizing abortion to support a woman's right to choose. John is survived by his wife of 71 years, the former Cynthia Finn, with whom he traveled the world and developed a diverse cross-section of stimulating friendships and longtime socially active members of the Toledo Country Club. Their marriage produced 2 sons and a daughter who survived him, along with 10 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. He was predeceased by his beloved daughter, Tenley Ann Galbraith. Respectfully submitted to the committee. May he rest in peace.
Michael James Darkangelo, July 25th, 1932, December 23rd, 2021. Admitted to the bar October 16th, 1963. Michael James Darkangelo was one of 3 children born in Toledo to Michael and Anna. Michael was a lifelong Toledo resident. He graduated from Central Catholic High School in 1950 and matriculated to the University of Toledo, where he served as the president of the Theta Chi fraternity. He received his business degree in 1959 and continued at the University of Toledo and received his law degree from the College of Law in 1963. While at UT, Mike married Jane, and they ultimately raised a family of 4 children. Mike began his career at Cubbin and Rice. He was a founding partner of Kroncke, Darkangelo, Sutter, Fury, and Mills. He was a distinguished attorney and a member of the Toledo Bar Association and the Ohio State Bar Association for nearly 60 years. And after 52 years of a successful legal career, he retired to spend time with his beloved family and engage in his favorite pastimes. Mike was a wonderful counselor to those who sought his help, legal or otherwise. He was generous with his time to young lawyers. He was fair and reasonable, but a competitive sailor. He was characterized by family members as quick-witted, and he kept everyone entertained with great stories. He was kind, funny, warm, generous, and engaging. He always had a smile on his face and welcomed all to join in the fun. His humor, guidance, and patience were legendary. He was a role model to all he encountered. Mike and his family began their love affair with sailing in 1981. He was a member of the North Cape Yacht Club for over 40 years and was honored to serve as Commodore in 1999. He was a Mills Master, sailing in over 25 races in the TYC Mills Trophy race on Lake Erie on his beloved sailboard, the Consigliere. In 2012, his last Mills race, Michael took first in class. Known as Papa to his family, Mike enjoyed everything Italian. It is said he never met a dessert he did not like, loved red wine, and danced to Frank Sinatra with his lovely bride, Jane. Left to cherish Mike's memory are his wife, Jane, his children, Joe, Tony, Julie, and Brad, and his sister, Virginia, as well as 14 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. Anthony Tony Bayford, August 22nd, 1943, January 4th, 2022. Admitted to the bar, November 8th, 1974. Tony was born to Sid and Doreen Bayford on August 22nd, 1943 in Methley, Yorkshire in the north of England. He and his family immigrated to the United States in September of 1952 and took up residence in Toledo, Ohio. Tony graduated from Whitmer High School in 1962 and then attended the Bowling Green State University, graduating in 1966 with a degree in journalism. He then attended the University of Toledo Law School beginning in 1970. While attending law school, Tony worked as a property claims adjuster for the Buckeye Union Insurance Company, UAC, and was a member of the Toledo Claims Association. Tony began his career in law in the mid-1970s and worked with many local attorneys. His career began at the Willis Jones Law Firm. After leaving Willis Jones, he worked with Ralph Danoon, Michael Veperis, John Potts, Gordon Cenarius, Terry Bacco, and most recently, Phil Browarski. During his years as an attorney, Tony also served as guardian ad litem for children in and around the Toledo area. Tony was a dedicated athlete, and over the years, he was an active member of multiple men's basketball, baseball, and softball leagues. Tony was also an active and longtime member of the Toledo Roadrunners Club. He completed several marathons, including the Glass City Marathon and the New York City Marathon. Tony was faced with multiple medical issues over the last several years and met each challenge with optimism and determination. Tony will be dearly missed by his extended family and many friends and all the lives he has touched. Tony is survived by his sister Lori, his brother-in-law Gary, as well as Sue, Robin, Lynn, and Margaret. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. Marvin E. Keller, March 29th, 1947, January 23rd, 2022, admitted to the bar May 10th, 1975. Marvin Bart Edward Keller was born March 29th, 1947 in Toledo to Edward and Lydia Keller. He was baptized in the Church of the Open Bible, Toledo, Ohio. Marv was given the nickname Bart as a child, a name which stayed with him into adulthood. Marv graduated from Waite High School. While attending Waite, Marv met his high school sweetheart, Carol Hecklinger. Marv and Carol were married in 1968. Marv graduated from the University of Toledo in 1969, cum laude, in finance. Marv secured his Juris Doctor from the University of Toledo College of Law in 1974. Marv then passed the Ohio Bar exam in 1975. During his legal career, Marv worked for Ohio Citizens Bank in the trust department, the law firm Marshall & Melhorn, First Federal Savings and Loan Association in the trust department, and then as a solo practitioner in private practice for the balance of his legal career. Marv's practice was primarily focused in probate and elder law throughout his career. Marv enjoyed tennis and bowling. He often recounted the time he bowled a 299 and a wiggle in the Toledo Chamber of Commerce Bowling League. Marv and Carol traveled to Switzerland to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary. And during that trip, the couple was able to visit the town where Marv's father was born. Marv was always busy with family and friends. He belonged to a gourmet group with friends for more than 35 years. Over the years, he served on church council at both First St. John and later Zoar Lutheran Church in Perrysburg. Marv is survived by his children, Jennifer and Julie, grandchildren, Nathan, Leah, and Megan, sisters-in-law, Joanne, Elaine, and Ruth, as well as a niece and nephews. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace.
C. Soren Holmberg, born 1938, passed away February 8th, 2022, admitted to the bar October 27th, 1967. Soren Holmberg died this past February in his 85th year. For nearly 50 of those years, he was an attorney whose clients and cases covered the broad array common to those among us who, for most of their careers, are solo practitioners. Those who knew Soren, and perhaps too few of us did, knew that while his mind was at home in the law, his heart was forever in his birthplace, Sweden. Though for the most part, Soren was quiet and reserved, not one to thrust himself forward when among those who did not know him well, there was a passion that came out when Sweden, the Swedes, and anything and all things Swedish became the subject. His truly was a dual citizenship. Soren was a graduate of Rockford University and the UT School of Law. His practice was, as already noted, varied. Not always to be found behind a desk in an office chair. His real office was wherever he happened to be at the time when his mind was focused on a client, a case, or the law that related to both. Soren is survived by a daughter, Kristen Dinalfo, with, in allegiance to his homeland, a K, not an Anglo-Saxon C, of Naperville, Illinois, a son, Eric, born no doubt to Soren's regret, without red hair, of Akron, 3 grandchildren, and a sister, Lil Elizabeth Holmberg of Myrtle Beach, as well as his dearly beloved Sharon Lang. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. John F. Potts, October 13th, 1952, February 26th, 2022. Admitted to the bar, October 20th, 1978. John Potts was different. He also was unique, and for some, he was also special. Different as one immediately knew when first meeting him. He stuttered. One of his law school professors remembers knowing him as a law student and marveling that despite his impediment, he was deliberately heading for a profession where plain speaking in all senses of the term was an essential attribute for success. Perhaps, he remembers thinking, John will apply his obvious legal talents to deciphering the murky pages of the Internal Revenue Code and its even more confounding regulations. Closeted in those somewhat somnolent confines, far from the verbal hurly-burly of the corridors and courtroom of the criminal law, John could comfortably work to keep his clients' fortunes as far away from Uncle Sam's ever-greedy grasp. But those unfair, wrong-headed stereotypes and typecasting impressions were off the mark, way off. John did not avoid the criminal courtroom's verbal hurly-burly, though not preordained for that most public of all civic arenas where verbal advocacy matters most. He made it his professional home for 50 years. Destined or not, he was meant to be there. Once he was there, what made him different also as a criminal defense attorney made him unique. And he became a master. To be sure, when he began to speak, we, whether judge, juror, or witness, were of course aware that he stuttered. But he never mentioned it. He never apologized, never sought some false or undeserved indulgence. To him, it did not seem to matter. Without saying anything about it, he let us know it shouldn't matter to us. To have others pay attention is what matters most to any lawyer, and most of all to a criminal defense lawyer. So we paid attention to what he was saying, not to his sometimes difficulty in saying it. What might have been a liability became an asset. John was as adept with the books and the briefs he crafted from them as he was in his verbal advocacy before a judge or jury. Sometimes, it must be acknowledged, John could go on and on. He'd often view an adverse ruling as an invitation to continue. From where he stood, he felt and was duty-bound to stand his ground and stay his course. He believed that was simply what his client deserved. He never surrendered, though often forced to give in. Even as he sat down or departed for his next encounter, one could sense that inside, He was not going quietly into the dark night of yet another day of defeat. There was something else that set John Potts apart. When he put the harmonica to his mouth, it became an instrument of shared inspiration and common delight. His mastery on the performing stage was as it was in the courtroom. Wherever and whenever he played, whether impromptu or with groups like the Postmodern Blues Band, the Microphonics, or the Jingle Balls Band, the music that came from within him was that of an impresario. Words that lawyers speak dissipate and disappear quickly from memory. Not so for music well performed. Those who heard John play can readily recall, even as time passes, the music he loved to play. For them, chords and melodies will come to mind unbidden and bring fond and enduring memories of the pleasure he felt and the pleasure he gave. In that, John remains most fortunate, as are those who had the good fortune to hear his flashing harmonica. You will remember him at his best, best of all. For those who saw his work only in the courtroom, he was different and unique. For those who saw him not just there, but also at play, he was both of those. But for you who did so, he was and remains very special indeed. For us all, John Potts was, in a word, remarkable. Respectfully submitted, the committee. May he rest in peace. The roll is now complete. I hereby move the presiding judge of the Lucas County Common Pleas Court to accept these statements and remarks and spread them upon the permanent record of the court. We are therefore concluded until our next annual service. We hope that you keep the memories of each of our departed colleagues in your hearts and minds as you go forward after leaving this service. May they all rest in peace. Thank you for attending. Father, could you favor us with a brief benediction? Father, you are muted. Could you please unmute and start over?
Sorry about that. Having heard their stories, Lord, and knowing that you have been present in their lives to us, we ask your welcome for them and your blessing for us that we may go and do likewise. Amen. This was a delight. Thank you.